Welcome back to Restoring Home, where we talk about marriage, parenting, and faith. And today our topic is camping and family fun. And our guests are Nate Gurnish and Adam Groves. Thank you guys for taking time to be here. And for many people who are listening today, camping and fun, family fun, are not necessarily, they don't see how those work. So hopefully by the time we finish today, you'll give them some ideas so that people will know how to go about having family campouts that are not too stressful or burdensome and actually a lot of fun. Because I know you guys, I asked you guys to help me with this because I've been camping with you both. And I've seen you know how to get all the gear together, and you know how to make it happen even in the rain. Because the first camp out that I was on with the two of you was pretty much rain. It was mud and rain the whole time. That's right. And so it was still great fun, and your kids had a great time. And so anyway, so I wanted to just talk about this because camping is such an important and good thing for pulling the family together. It can be fun, it can be challenging, but if done right, it really does pull the family together. And a lot of dads are not, and moms are not familiar with camping very much because they just didn't grow up doing it. So I'm wanting to Dave to begin the conversation for you to share some of the things you do that they might consider doing. And at the end, we have some resources that we'll have in a PDF so people can get a list of places to go, maybe some suggestions that you guys have, and gear that might be starter stuff. So without spending a fortune, they can still get all the necessities and still have a great time with their kids. Okay? So Nate, I'm going to start with you. Nate was really cutting up before we got started, so I'm going to pick on him a little bit. He's usually very shy, but he's not going to be tonight. That's right. Yeah, that's right. And Nate, now, how many kids do you have?
I have five.
Five. And
yeah, four boys and a girl.
And Jack's how old? 13?
Jack is 4. No, he just turned 14 last week.
14. All right.
Yep.
And you guys are big campers. I've seen you
Yes.
camping. You do quite a bit of it, all seasons, all kinds of camping and such. And I know you have your own business. So that means you put in a good 40 or 50 hours or whatever, a whole lot of hours in a week.
Sometimes, yeah.
Yeah, and still you've found time to go camping. And that's one of the things also, I know you work full time, you have at least 40 hours, sometimes more than that a week, and all the stresses that go with it. Yet you guys have found time, made time to work in camping, pretty regular camping. It's not just once a year we go on the family camp out. You guys are going through in the winter and spring and summer and several times in the year. So we want to know how you did that. So my first question for you, Nate, is how do you make camping happen with your busy schedule as a owning your own business and all that goes with running a family and your home? So how do you do it? How do you make time for it?
I think the big thing is listening to my family. The kids, my wife, they'll communicate that, hey, we're ready to go, we're ready to camp. Sometimes it's scheduled. We camp. We do a lot of different camping. I mean, we've got a camper at a permanent campsite that's set up that we've gone to. We RV throughout, the East Coast and down to Texas and different places. We've just camped out in a tent in a state park campground and boated or, just done that. And then, the boys and I will go backpacking too into the woods. And, so each of them, kind of encompasses different members of the family and, different things. And they each kind of take their own level of scheduling and commitment. And obviously the bigger the trip, the further out we're scheduling it. But there's sometimes where it's just something small, and we might say that I might say to the boys a week in advance, let's go out next weekend, and let's go out into the woods and just have fun. But the biggest thing is really just I got to be listening because it's something that our whole family enjoys and something that our whole family does. And so as I hear it, then I know for me, like, hey, it's time to block off time in my schedule and just decide that we're going to do it. Because it's just a decision. I mean, it's just like anything else that we do. You can decide to watch TV, you can decide to work on your car, you can decide to go camping. It's just, you just have to make that decision.
It's a priority
and do it.
It's a decision you make because it's a priority. And
Right.
I ask you a quick question that's not on our question previously, but I'm curious, and I think others probably are too. How did you create that appetite? You said your family likes to go. They're almost calling you into it? What did you do to create that appetite?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that, because I'm going to tell you this is the most important thing that I'll say, and everything else isn't important. You have to marry a good woman.
Oh, good.
My wife is amazing. She is involved, whether she's camping with us or sending the boys and I out, she's involved in helping to prepare and to do that. And, kind of logistically, she handles a lot of that side of things. And then it frees me up to be with the family and just to, when we camp, my kids, my family, my wife has access to me that you just don't have anywhere else. You're at home, there's that leaky roof that you've got to deal with, or there's that room that needs repainted, or the garage is a mess, or whatever. That is, we'll play together. Just give me a minute. I want to do this first, or whatever. But when you go camping, it's just not there. And so it's just you and your kids and your wife, or you and your kids, or you and your wife, or whatever it is. And so she does such a great job of getting us ready for that, that when we go, now there's this sense of we have access to Dad that we just have never had, because there's nothing else dividing attention away. So it's kind of her work on the front end really helps to then just pave the way for the back end to be just a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's a big deal. Donna, my wife, always did all of the logistical, getting things ready, packing the food and all that kind of stuff. And I just kind of did the gear and got it in the vehicle. And once we got there, I'm kind of running a lot of the show, not all of it at all, but a lot of the show. But without her prep, I was working all week. I couldn't do that. I don't know how she did it. She was working too. She took care of all of our kids, and homeschooling and other things, but somehow pulled it off. Now, Rosella also goes camping.
Yes.
But I know you go just you and your kids sometimes.
Yeah.
So how do you guys do that?
Well, it started off for us. It started off with mostly me initiating a lot of it for our family. But after some time, and I would agree with Nate, you gotta have a woman that trusts you and wants to do those things and sees value in those things if you're going to bring the whole family to do that. And I think there was, at first, there was a bit of fear, are you sure this is a good idea? Because the first time we went, and we had a 6-year-old and a 3-year-old, when we went, and it was a little daunting. And we did a little more than what we probably should have during that, but I think that it's also, I agree with Nate, you do have to listen to your family and hear what they're saying. And you throw in little things, and you kind of get some feedback of that they're ready. But sometimes it is for us, it's just an impromptu, because I have a uncle that has some woods, and it might be a Thursday night, and I text him and I say, hey, can I camp out in your woods Saturday night? And he says, yeah, and I grab a ready container, throw a whole bunch of stuff in it, and it's just, if you forget something, it's just an hour away, kind of a thing. And it's just kind of and I take the boy with me usually, but it's just good time. It really shows that, I think it does show that Dad's thinking of us. I think that's one of the big things. Dad wants to spend time with me. You know, I think that's one of the good signals for kids to feel value, right?
Yeah, I think you're right. And both of you made points about how camping lets there be some focus, or you're not distracted. The kids know you're focusing on them. And that is huge, because with television and video and just home, things to do at home, responsibilities there, access, other people have access to you, that it's hard to focus. It's hard to give your focused attention, and so the kids don't feel that way. And also the kids are not focused anymore. They've got their buddies calling them, they've got their games and their patterns and their expectations when they're at home. But when you go to the woods and you're all together, you break away from all of that. So the whole thing is eating and sleeping and then taking naps or whatever we're going to do in between. So that is the focus, and it's everybody's focus. So it really does bring families together.
And I like to add to that, because you see each other's relationships with each other too. You see how your kids are kind of jiving with each other when all that stuff is out of the way. There's only a handful of things for them to occupy their time, and you see how they're talking and communicating to each other, because you don't have all those other distractions around.
Yeah. It's a great opportunity to give kids little responsibilities and make them feel part of it. And instead of just doing it all and they have to go play or sit still, but they get to be engaged. And if you engage them in little things, then later on they feel responsible and capable, and they're looking forward to doing the thing they know to do that they did last time. You know, they're the ones who folds up the folding chairs or unfolds them or whatever.
Yeah, we were talking about lighting a fire before we started, and I don't think I've lit a fire in years, because it's, you know, can we light the fire? You know, hey, go for it, light the fire. You know, and it just gives them something to look forward to and a responsibility to have. But you know, you brought up I think a great point too, though, is trust. With that is, you know, your family trusting you. And I've kind of coached a number of people who have decided that, you know, hey, we're going to buy an RV and we're going to, you know, go across the country, or we're going to do these things. And, you know, just working with them over a few conversations to build some confidence and some skill within them, you know, so that they feel good about what they're doing when they go out, the mom and the dad, I think just goes a long way. You know, because I know I've had some experiences with my kids in the woods, you know, and there's the other side of the camping. You're roughing it in the woods, and I led on by accident, like, I don't know where I'm at, or I don't know what's going on, and the kids are all of a sudden like, we're lost, we don't know what we're doing, you know, and it just creates this really, I mean, it's a toxic environment that it's really hard to spin out of. So, you know, having that confidence yourself, you're not going to screw it up, but just being like, no, I'm going to be confident that I can do this is so big, and building that trust, and then making that such a great experience for the kids.
And, you know, for people who aren't confident in climbing the Rockies or going back to the wilderness in Canada or something, just start in the backyard. We're going to camp out in the backyard and put up your tent and learn how to do that together. The new tent, you're probably just getting out of the bag and put it up, figure out how to do it, and have a little campfire back there and roast the marshmallows or whatever you're doing over the in the campfire in the backyard, or have your sandwiches that mom made for you ahead of time and camp out. And just take it a little at a time and build the competence and the skills, and you know, move on up after that. A question for you here about what are some of the things that you do? I said, you know, put up the tent, roast marshmallows. What are some things that you guys do when you go camping? Games, fun, adventures, besides eating and setting up the tent and just kind of the stuff we would expect. What do you do as a family?
For us, like, I think one of our favorite games to bring is like memory match, a simple memory match game, because deck of cards in any kind of card game, and just sitting out on the picnic table and just playing that. The kids really dive into that, and you know, anything where from like roasting marshmallows and, you know, glow in the dark stuff, like it kind of really helps things go. But and yeah, like sometimes you just find things on the spot. Like this last trip we were on, it was just like a competition who could build the highest rock tower, you know, and it was just interesting to see them just really go after that, you know, and trying to pick up the biggest rocks, and just with that, you know, just that spending time. And I think each time you do it, you kind of find different things that they like and like to do, and it does get a lot easier after, you know, each time you do it, because you come across things that you see, you know, at the store, and you're like, oh, that would actually be good for camping. I'm going to buy that. It's not intended for that, but I'm going to buy it anyway and see how it does. You know, so.
Some of the things that we have done, you said something there that reminded me of some things we did when our kids, all the way through, even when they were very young, used nature, since we're already out there. So we would get, okay, who can find the biggest leaf? Or who can get the prettiest rock? And everybody, you know, guys, they bring whatever, and then everybody oohs and ahs over their rocks, or the most rocks, or something. There's always some kind of thing that people can do, I think that the kids can do. We made tomahawks one time, so I didn't know how to make one, so I just invented how to make one. The kids didn't know, and so they still have those things. And you use a rock and some twine and a stick. We made tomahawks. So you can, we've raced paper. We've raced leaf boats down the creek before. So you take leaves and put a little stick on them, and that's your passenger, and you turn them loose and see who can go the furthest or the fast. Just make it up, but it's using nature, and it's something they can't get back at home that they will always treasure and remember. So, and games, just mind games or talking games, other things. What about you guys?
One thing that we have done that has worked wonderful, whether we're just hiking, out for a day trip hiking or camping or whatever, and I sort of stumbled across it kind of by mistake. It takes zero preparation. You don't have to bring anything with you. We would just make a picture or a scene or collect whatever you can find. It's rocks, it's twigs, it's sticks, it's feathers. It's if you're hiking near a body of water, it's great to do on the bank where you've got some sand and you can even draw on the sand or whatever. And the kids would just they would arrange it, and I would usually be the judge. That way I didn't have to stay bent over building one. But everybody would arrange one, and then I'd give them, hey, you got 30 minutes to do this. And a lot of times you get to 30 minutes and some of the kids would be like, oh no, wait, we're not done, we need more time. And so they'd all build something, and then you'd go around and look at it, and it gave them a chance to express something with just what they had in nature there. It wasn't it wasn't even like a paper and a pencil and they're making a drawing. But then too, they have to verbalize, like, well, this is what I made, this is what this means, this is what this is. And it's been super fun when we do that. And now the kids sometimes will even ask, hey, can we stop and do the picture thing or make something. So that's been really cool. A few times when we've been backpacking, the kids have wanted to build their own shelter to spend the night in, which is really fun, but it's a lot of work. I mean, it's an afternoon to cut down enough stuff to make yourself a roof and all of that stuff. But that's been a lot of fun. And then being by water really helps when we camp. We try to get by water, and the kids love to play in the water and do stuff like that. And I will say too, my children are avid readers. They love to read. So almost any camping trip, everybody takes a book with them. And after you've hiked in and everybody's got set up, and you're a little tired, it's like, hey, go sit in the hammock and read read a couple of chapters and just relax for a few minutes. And it helps to quiet things down and hear the nature instead of each other.
One of the rules that we have is no cell phones or any of that kind of stuff. Nothing music, nothing to listen to. We're leaving that aside. And I have one for emergencies, but otherwise everybody just shuts up. We don't even bring them. They just get gone. And that lets kids focus on being able to focus on we're going to do something. So we have these new things to do. Storytelling, we do a lot of storytelling at our place. So I'll make up stuff, or we'll give the kids, they all get to give a character, some made up whatever number of characters, and we try to make a story out of that. Or we take turns telling part of the story and the next person part of the story, and they carry it forward, and it gets hilarious and crazy, but it's great fun. So lots of things like that. Those are great things to do with your kids while you're out there, besides just eating and surviving and that kind of thing. Tell us some stories now. I ask you guys to think about a couple of them. Your most exciting camping trip that you ever took with one of your family members? I shared that I've had a few where I wouldn't want to do them again. They're great memories, but I wouldn't want to do them again because they were a little bit too exciting, kind of dangerous. So, but what do you guys, what are some of the exciting memories you have?
I mean, I guess I'll go first. I think the most exciting time was when I took, it was the whole family at the time. There was 4 of us at the time, and the 6 and their 3-year-old and my wife out backpacking, and I bit off a little more than I could chew, and keeping that 3-year-old going. I think one of the hardest things is when you're hiking a bit, because we did hike a few more miles than what we should have, and getting that motivation and encouraging, because a 3-year-old is not motivated or wants to go more than probably a mile at most, and So just finding that, and it was hard. And when we were hiking in, it had rained a lot, so it was muddy, and some trees were down, and going over and under, getting stuck in the mud, losing a shoe, and it was kind of a mess. But I was just so excited to take them on that first roughing it kind of camping trip, because it had just been easy camping since then. But it, like you said, it was great because it kind of showed them what it was like, and we were way out there, and without anything but each other to kind of depend on. And when it came to hiking out, I made the decision to take us a longer route, even though, because it was going to be drier, not as many water crossings, and it was even harder. It was just like when you're going from 3.5 miles and then you decide to go 5.5 miles instead. Those 2 miles are
big.
Are a lot different. Are a lot different with a 3 and
right.
6-year-old, and I think it was getting dark by the time we got back to the car, and luckily, there wasn't any nasty falls or anything like that, but it really kind of, I think it did kind of hit my, you always think if you're a really strong leader, you can really do this or that, and it's really sometimes you do have to back off, right? That those high expectations. But yeah, that was our kind of.
I just think it's so exciting to get your kids out, specifically when you're backpacking and you're kind of more primitive and you're away from that stuff, to get them out and then just see them light up with what's there, and it's just nature. I took 2 of the boys on a trip, and we came up the dirt road up the back way to come in here, and there's this plateau of rocks and these little shrubs, and they both got out of the car, and it was we got to go play in that. That is so cool. And so I took off with them, and totally impromptu. I wasn't planning. I'm thinking okay, we get past here, we go down this road, we'll park here, we get our bag, we'll start on our hike in and everything. And they're like, we got to stop right here, we got to stop, we got to see this, we got to do this, and we just took off in these. There was these rocks and ledges, and probably not I'm. Some people are often surprised when I tell my kids that, oh wait, don't do that, it might be dangerous. So there were some moments where maybe a more, I could have been a little safer with them, but nobody got hurt. We had a great time. They had just a blast climbing, in and out of these crevices and through these shrubs and bushes and playing, and and the 3 of us just being together. And it was probably, after that, it was well, man, we don't have to camp now. We could go home. I'm filled up. This was amazing. These guys had such a great time. So.
Well, you didn't ruin them. They keep coming back for more, and you took your 3-year-old out. I know he's older now, but he's going all the time with you. Whenever you say, let's go,
he's been on, I counted it up, he's been on 6 backpacking trips alone. And he's 6 years old, and it's just, it's really neat, because I asked him on this last backpacking trip, was it hard? And he was like, no, it was easy, and it's just
that's great.
He is tough. I've seen it. He's a trooper. He really is.
Yeah, he is.
I took mine out one time. I've taken all my boys when they were 13 on a special trip, but the second one, I overloaded the canoe the first time, almost tipped over. The second time, we did tip over. We're froze to death, hypothermic. We survived. And so, and every trip has its own memorable mishaps, and those usually become the best memories looking back. Do plan to be safe and do the best you can, but if there's a mishap, to handle it well, and your kids learn how to handle mishaps in life. It's a great training opportunity. One last question here about a story. I wanted you guys to tell us a little bit about your times when things went wrong. We want the horror story of camping and something went wrong. I know it never, maybe one time, but tell us one and share some of those stories. Nate, you got one on the tip of your tongue there.
Well, several. I think of one my kids often remind me of. We took our camper. We had a fifth wheel camper, and we went down to Red River Gorge. And the campgrounds there are not set up for big campers. I mean, they're just, that's not what they do there. And so I, pretty good with my backing skills and driving, and I'm like, I am going to get this camper in this site no matter what. We are going to do this. And I get it all in there. I'm almost in there, and I bring the truck around and just break out the back window of the truck, and just shatters all over the place. And I don't know where I'm going to get it fixed, or anything. And it wasn't a huge deal, but my kids just love to remind me, remember that time you broke that window out of the truck when we were at the campground? But so that one was kind of funny. But my oldest son, Jack, and I went camping with a friend. Let's call him Ben. I mean, that might not be his name, but we'll say that's what it was. And the three of us went, and I picked this trail. It was like the New River Trail, and we're backpacking in, and I'm thinking, okay, New River Trail, there's going to be a river, we'll have a water source, this will be great. And we hike in on a Friday night, and we hike and hike and hike, and it's just getting darker and darker and dark, and I can't find water anywhere. And we have like almost no water left, and it's hot, and we're thirsty, and so you get kind of ration everybody a little water, and we set up camp and camp for the night and get up in the morning, and we're on our way, and I'm like, this is the New River Trail, there has to be water somewhere. I mean, there's got to be a river. And we keep hiking. We finally at noon or 1 p.m, we find this river way down this ravine. So climb down and fill up our waters and drink and everything, get everything full, eat some lunch, and okay, we'll keep going, and maybe we'll find a spot where there's a little closer water, we can camp for the night. And so we go down the trail some more, and we stop and take our backpacks off, and we're kind of sitting around, and maybe we'll make some dinner or whatever. And my friend Ben takes off into the woods. And then Jack and I are sitting there and chit-chatting, and we hear this commotion, like some of this whistling and all kinds of stuff going on. And I wonder what's going on. I don't know. And hour goes by, 2 hours go by. We can't, Ben's gone. We have no clue where he's at. And I mean, we probably sat there for 3 hours. And finally we're like, we don't know where Ben's at. I mean, he's gone. We can't find him. And so I said to Jack, well, I guess we'll just hike back to the car, So I loaded up my bag, and I loaded Ben's bag on my back, and he had a few other things. And, I don't know how old Jack was at the time, maybe 8, 7. Mm-hmm. And he's like, well, I'm going to help. I'll carry this, And so he carried a few things, and we hiked out, and on the hike out, we passed a house, and, found a phone, and I called my wife and said, hey, we lost Ben. We don't know where he's at. This is crazy. We don't know what to do, And so we got, you guys need to call the sheriff's department. So we called the sheriff's department. Well, meanwhile, Ben had eventually found a road, and somebody had taken him back to our car, and he had taken the car up to a McDonald's where he could get on his cell phone and call. And this whole thing happens, and so now the sheriff is out looking for us. And so the sheriff pulls up, and he's like, hey, are you Nate and Jack? Well, yeah. And he's like, well, you got to come with me. And I'm like, what do you mean I got to come with you? And he's like, well, you guys are lost. I go, I'm not lost. I know exactly where I'm at. The other guy's lost. And he goes, well, when we get a phone call and you're lost, you have to get put back together before our job is done. So you have to get in the car, and we have to take you to him. So there we were a half a mile from finishing this trail, and we have to load up in this sheriff's car and get driven back to the parking lot. And it was a funny story for me, but really for my son at the time and his age, it was really traumatic. And it's been tough for him. His desire to go camping is high, but to go backpacking and out in the wilderness. And after that experience has been really low. And so that was a tough one for me. And, everything turned out fine in the end. Everything was good. But I didn't do a good job as a dad of, hey man, we know what we're doing. We're good. We're all right. We're not going to worry about Ben. Ben's a big boy too. He can handle himself. He'll be okay. Let's just keep. Yeah, we want to get back together with him. We're going to look for him, but it's going to be fine.
Yeah.
But it was a disaster. We went home that night. I looked at we got back together and I looked at Ben. I go, I brought all your stuff. Let's go camping. And he's like, no, I'm done. Let's go home.
It may not be a total disaster. I'm sure that Jack appreciates the sheriff's department now more than ever.
Oh, I'm sure.
Knowing that they're there to take care of you.
Yeah.
It's been good.
Yep.
Do you have a crazy story?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think we were down in West Virginia. I was with Elijah, my boy, and we were hiking through Otter Creek is what it's called. And we go and we're hiking this big loop with another guy, and we come and it's starting to get close to nightfall. It's always getting close to nightfall, right? When something goes wrong, and we're looking for a campsite, and we pass a few, and we're like, no, let's just go a little further. We'll find something a little farther. And we come up on this kind of a little bit swampy or boggy area, and it's like we can't really figure out where the trail went, and so but we start hiking through it. It's got to be through here somewhere. And we start hiking, and I mean, it's up to mid-thigh, and I see a hiker's boots, and I see just others trashing. It's like people go through here. There's footprints, obvious footprints all through this stuff. And it comes to a point where we just can't go through it any longer. And my son starts crying, and he has a bad poop in his diaper. I know. I take my son backpacking in diapers. Yeah, I do. And it's just bad. And he's crying bad. And I'm up to mid-thigh. And I find this one dry enough spot for him to lay on. And I'm changing his diaper right there while it's slowly getting darker and darker. And it's like, why am I so stubborn? Why am I so why do I have these expectations of where to go and what to do? But in it, you learn to, I think Nate said before, you learn to listen to your kids more. You learn to hear them, and I think that's a really good thing.
Yes. So. Yeah, I think our topic about camping out and family fun, and there's a lot of fun to it, and there should be a lot of fun. It shouldn't be so difficult or scary or miserable, but sometimes those things happen. And when they do, it depends on how we manage those as to how our kids perceive those things. Yeah. And my second son and I, a story I've told a lot of times to people, is we were out 13 up in the Boundary Waters in Minnesota, canoeing, pretty new at it, both of us. And a waterfall is coming down, so the water's sort of pushing this way. We're fishing along, and we come across a good distance from the waterfall, but the water is flowing more swiftly there. So we come across, and we get to the other side of the flow, and there's a tall, flat rock face there. And I said, Caleb, take your paddle, and then just kind of gently push off. And he was new at it, so he put his paddle on there, and then he went like that, which makes the canoe jerk, which it just makes it all of a sudden it's a bowl, because I react and he reacts, and then it's upside down that fast. So we're upside down. The water was very cold. I mean, it just sucks the breath out of you instantly. But I remember being under the water, the canoe was upside down, and I remember going under the water. Before I got my breath, I could feel it. Just felt like it just crushed the cold, just crushed the air out of me. But I caught him out of the corner of my eye, grabbed his life vest, and threw him up on the canoe. And then I came up above the water. I don't know how that happened, but that happened. We made it over. It pushed us the current pushed us over to a little island that was about a couple hundred feet away. We got out, turned the boat over, got out, paddled back to a couple hundred yards over to our campsite, got dry clothes on, got in, and we just laid there and just shivered until we got warm. And we were just so thankful to be alive, because it was pretty frightening what could have happened there with just the hypothermia. But he looks back on that experience as it painted in his mind an image of who God is. He said, my dad was like super, and he said, that's the way God is. God just can just do super things. And that image came to him through that experience. So they watch you, they watch us, they watch Mom, and through that they sort of begin to assimilate. They will eventually, that becomes kind of a template for how they will view God later on. And if you're calm and control and prayerful and just come on, we'll figure it out, and you roll with it, then they will tend to think God's in control, and I can relax around him. But if you're panicked and nervous and angry and frustrated and whatever, then they'll tend to think that God's kind of that way with them. And so it's there's a piece of camping, and it's really all of life, but it's certainly a piece of camping as parents where we really get an opportunity, usually unscripted, to paint, to create a template in which they will view God later on, and we can do a good job or not such a good job. But the circumstances, it doesn't matter. It's how we act within it. So it is a thing where we as dads, as parents, grow during those experiences too. So, at the end, by the way, we got a couple of pieces of gear. You want to show some of your gear here real quick?
Well, I was going to just show something that I do with my kids.
Show us that.
Like
really.
when I
wanted to see that.
When we went on our last trip, I gave them each a Ziploc baggie because there's only so much you can bring with you. Mm-hmm. And so this is what I do for them when we go backpacking. I give them each a Ziploc because it's equal, right? Mm-hmm. And they can put whatever they want in there. Yeah, there's a quarter.
Can I have that quarter?
You want?
No, it's all right. I don't want to steal from the kids.
It's Olivia's. But they put something in there, and yeah, that's their stuff that they get to bring.
That's what they bring.
And it also encourages them to kind of like figure out what do they really want, right? And the decisioning of making that decisions for packing.
They can't bring all their toys, so they bring a few. Yeah. And you're not making all the choices for them.
Yeah, correct. They're making some choices.
A little independence, a little bit of prioritizing, and that's great.
Yeah.
That's great. Do you have any particular tool or craft or anything that you just really think this is just great?
Yeah, I make everybody bring their own pocket knife. Mm-hmm. Everybody brings their own flashlight. Everybody brings their own headlamp. Mm-hmm. Everybody's got their own backpack, and they bring, they age appropriately haul in, their own amount of stuff, and that keeps my boys pretty well entertained. Rope. You got to have rope. Mm-hmm. And those are the key ingredients for them. Maybe not the key ingredients to survive a camping trip, but for them to have a good time.
Right. Mm-hmm. I have 2 items I brought here just to show, because these are like, if I got these, I think I can make it without anything else. I just felt, I'm kind of a minimalist anyway when I go camping. I like to go with as little as I can, mainly because I just don't like to carry so much. But so these are 2 things. One of them you introduced me to, and this is a little pipe thing. What is this called?
A billow, a pocket billow.
A pocket billow. So you can blow through it, and it just focuses your air. So on a fire, you're down there, put your face in it, you're blowing and blowing, and you're sucking in the smoke and coffee and trying to blow and everything. So this puts your your breath right focused right at the base of the fire, right where you need it, and it really makes that thing like a torch. Mm-hmm. It takes off. So, and it's tiny because it's just a little aluminum thing, and load it up, put it in your pocket. And the other is a Flintstone fire starter, which just strikes here on this magnesium little rod here. It's really easy and quick, and so I like to do that. A lot of folks, you can use propane, butane, you can do all kinds of things to start a fire. I just like the thrill of starting the fire from the flint and stone. Mm-hmm. I just like that when it happens. So, and the boys and I make it a little bit of a competition to see, can we do it? And each one gets a different turn, his turn during different times, different fires that we start. So it's always kind of an accomplishment when the guys can do it. It's a part of our games that we play. So I enjoy those. So we're out of time, but I do want to tell people who are watching the video that we're going to put together a list of essential camping gear, kind of a short list of these are the things I would take, or you would suggest that people take on a trip. And then maybe give us 2 or 3 locations each that you know of that are in this area anyway, that are ones that are familiar to you, maybe different levels of expertise, but just ones you enjoy that you might suggest to them. So we'll have that. Anybody who's starting out fresh will have a good starter list here, as well as the encouragement from you guys, because what it will do for your family, what it will do for you as well. So, and mom. And if mom's not on board with it, my suggestion to guys whose wife is not really on board with it is take her on a little camp walk, hike, little half a day, something. Begin to give her a little taste of good experiences with that, where she's not feeling like, oh, bugs and mosquitoes and all that kind of stuff are bothering me, but let her get a little taste here and there and kind of build her competence and enthusiasm and joy of camping too. And so you may have to start, not with the kids, but with mom, and that's okay. And let her, for the sake of the family and for the good of the family, begin to work with her on that too. And maybe the other way, some of the ladies are really campers and they're going to have to get dad out to do that. So if so, then dad, go. All right. So thank you guys. Appreciate it. Appreciate your time. And so that's what we have for Restoring Home today. And I encourage you again to look at the PDF that's associated with this to get a list. And really, I encourage you, make time, as these guys have, make time to go out and spend a half a day or a whole day or maybe a weekend with your family out camping. And as you go, just realize you're not alone. The Lord is with you in that, and go and see what He has in store for you. God bless.